Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Beyond the Buzz. This is our 18th episode of Beyond the Buzz, and today we're focusing on how a 44803 approval can accelerate testing, reduce barriers, and support higher altitude operations. I'm joined by Jim Richtsmeier with Ideal Aerosmith. Ideal Aerosmith is one of the companies actively flying under our 44803 approval. Thanks for being here, Jim.
Thanks for having me on. It's great to see everyone.
Not a problem. Jim, if you could, for those that don't know a little bit about Ideal Aerosmith, if you could, please tell us about Ideal Aerosmith and what you guys have going on.
Sure. So Ideal Aerosmith is a relatively old company. Most people don't know that we've been here in the Red River Valley on the North Dakota-Minnesota border for more than 40 years.
Okay.
So we've been here a long time doing manufacturing, navigation, different defense work. So more recently, we actually got involved in the UAV industry almost 20 years ago, testing autopilots.
Okay.
So really a long-time player in the UAV industry. Part of what we've done is a lot of modeling and simulation work.
Okay.
So we kind of built on what we were doing in modeling and simulation and actually decided to get in the UAV manufacturing business. So the Prairie Hawk is the UAV that we've been flying.
Okay.
And really looking to, make an entrance into the UAV industry and excited about the potential. And right now it's, all about developing the airframe. So that's what led us to the test site.
Okay, fantastic. I have a question too, I guess, about the Prairie Hawk. When did you guys really start developing that airframe?
So it's been about 2 years.
2 years, okay.
That we've been working on the airframe.
Okay.
And been flying for a little bit over a year.
Okay. And when you started flying it, were you flying Part 107 flights?
Yes, Part 107. Yeah, we were able to stay under the 55 pounds, but then we outgrew that as we needed more fuel and more items on the aircraft.
Gotcha. So that really, I guess, leads into our next question. Why the 44803 approval?
So obviously the airframe's in development, a lot of changes. So once part of the Prairie Hawk is for long endurance. So we knew we needed a lot of fuel. We were rapidly out of being able to be under 55 pounds.
Sure.
Obviously being in North Dakota, we knew about the test site and, went to the test site, explained to them, what we were up against. And being under 400 feet obviously was something we could do, but a limitation for us. So those were the two things that we needed to overcome. They explained the 803 to us and, what provisions they had and what it would allow us to do. And we felt like that's the instrument that we needed at the point the program was at.
Okay, fantastic. I'm glad we were able to get you guys up in the air. Can you tell me a little bit about what it was like in practice? Walk us through your experience. Was it, a pretty quick process to get up in the air? Those type of things.
Yeah, so it really went pretty quick. And I think that was one thing, that was exciting for us is, we talked to the test site and, the answer was just, yes, you can do it, which if for people that have been flying UAVs, they know yes isn't normally the answer that you hear. There's a lot of regulations, and so we really look to the test site to really understand. But obviously, you are operating in the national airspace.
Sure.
Safety is always important to the people that are around and other property. So it's not that you can just go out and fly and not do anything. So, we understood what the requirements were. The test site, told us what we needed as far as checklists and pilots and visual observers. And so really everything that they needed to help us build the safety case, to be able to operate under their 803.
Sure. Fantastic. And you guys flew over 1,000 feet in the air versus you had mentioned under 400 for the Part 107. Can you tell me a little bit about the first two flight events? I know you were looking at endurance flights. How long or how many hours were you able to get on the aircraft?
So our longest flight was about 9.5 hours. So that one we ended up doing, we were not set up for night flights at the moment. So that one we had to end at darkness and brought it back down. Then we also did a night flight that was just under 9 hours. So been able to, really do a lot of things, which I think that was, the other thing, we asked the test site, can we fly at night?
Yep.
Sure. That, and so again, that, getting the yes was, a great thing. Obviously there's, things that go with it. We had to make sure we had lighting on the aircraft.
Absolutely.
And, things like that. But, being able to get the pathway, so that we could fly, that was, really the great thing about the, experience.
Sure. Did you feel like working with the test site and the planning and the safety risk assessment, did that help mature your operations, going from Part 107, being able to fly, a Group 3 fully loaded with fuel and, trying to get into other areas of the national airspace?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great learning experience, for us. Mm-hmm. We did have, people that had, experience flying, UAVs before, but, every mission's different.
Sure.
And then, so, really just, what we needed, to be able to, the test site to walk, us through, hey, here is what the FAA is, expecting. And, these are, things that are best practices.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think that's one thing, you learn in, any development is no matter how much there's even more that you don't know. And so, being able to work with the test site, gain some, different areas of experience, insight, you guys have done a lot of different operations and being able to benefit from that is very important, a great resource that we have here in North Dakota.
Absolutely. Based on your experience, what advice would you give other companies that are looking to, get a large aircraft up in the air, Group 3 aircraft, and leverage some of the approvals that Northern Plains Test Site has currently?
Yeah, I think come to Grand Forks, I guess is the first message. Great place to be, a great UAV, ecosystem here. So, all the people that are in the area, it makes it exciting, and then, really the test site and what we were able to do under the 803, it was really the instrument that we needed, to be able to fly. Obviously we're, in development, at this point, it's not about, how is the Prairie Hawk going to work for a customer? That's going to, what approvals or what methods will fly under. That's all going to depend on, the customer,
sure,
the application for the UAV. But, this we felt was really the right instrument so that we could just get flying and work on our development, finalize and, mature all our subsystems of the aircraft and, make things happen.
Fantastic. Now, one thing we run into here in North Dakota, obviously, is weather. So for you guys, how important it is, to fly 12 months out of the year?
So obviously, we're doing a lot of development. We need to fly. Mm-hmm. And weather, is a factor. And, even if the aircraft can fly in the weather, it's not always the greatest time to be outside. Like days like today, it can get a little bit chilly if you're the visual observer that's outside when that's going on. So actually, interesting enough, so we have a operation out in Maryland also, mm-hmm. and we're working with the test site to get a field where we had done 107 flights previously to get that added to the 803 that the test site has so that we can fly with the test site out in Maryland. So another option, not exactly Florida, but a little bit warmer in January than it is here in Grand Forks.
And with that, I understand you guys are currently working that. It sounds like things are going great to get that approval and hopefully start flying, early 2026. Do you plan to continue to fly in North Dakota as the weather warms up as well as
Yes.
Maryland?
Yeah. So obviously our corporate headquarters are here. We have a lot of activity going on. So we've signed a contract with the test site. We're going to be doing a lot of flights here in North Dakota and also some out at the field in Maryland.
Okay, perfect. And, as far as long-term goals for you guys, part of the test site's role is to really enable others to get up in the air and be a partner with you and not necessarily, be the enforcement from the FAA side, but really to teach you and help you understand the provisions that go along with the codes and those type of things. But for you guys long term, where do you see Ideal Aerosmith and this airframe, and you see it potentially going beyond visual line of sight flights? What are you looking for?
Yeah. So, another reason that we're excited about being here in North Dakota and in the test site, obviously it's a long endurance aircraft.
Yep.
So as soon as you think long endurance, there's a few applications where maybe you want to be over a well site for a long duration and you're just staying in that spot. But usually when you talk long duration, you're going for larger distance, which you want to be beyond the visual line of sight is the obvious application. So I think having that capability here and being able to work with the test site to use Vantis, there's just so many different options and the expertise that we can go to the test site and say, hey, what do we need to do? We want to, fly this type of mission.
Sure.
What's the best way to do that? And knowing that, the test site, 803 is obviously a great option for what we're doing right now. We don't know what, there's going to be scenarios that, the 803 isn't going to be the right instrument, but we know that we can go to the test site, and get input and, figure out what's the method for, that next scenario. And so just the broad range of what's available here in North Dakota is a great asset.
That is great. I appreciate that because we definitely want to understand, what the industry is looking for and how we can build out capabilities here in North Dakota. Obviously, we want people to come here and fly, and we want to be able to support companies that maybe aren't looking to do cold weather flights at this time. But, don't let that stop you if that is what you're looking here for from the test site. I guess maybe we should open it up to questions.
Where exactly did you fly, and then what other options are there to fly in North Dakota? Is there other places to fly under 44803 in North Dakota, or is it specific to one location?
Sure. Yeah, I can definitely take that. So Ideal Aerosmith flew out at the Mayville Municipal Airport. We actually have approvals in place at Gorman Field, out at Grand Sky UAS Business Park. The one at Gorman Field is very similar to the one at the Mayville Airport, up to 1,200 feet altitude or AGL. And then using the DASR radar out at Grand Sky, you can actually fly a Group 3 aircraft up to 18,000 feet. So the capabilities, I would say, are obviously dependent upon what is at the facility that you have the 44803 approval. So we have quite a few approvals here in North Dakota. We also have an approval out in Western North Dakota using the Vantis Beyond Visual Line of Sight network. And then we are currently working on an approval, as Jim said, out in Maryland. And we're currently working on one in Oklahoma as well. So It is a huge advantage for us as a test site to be able to expand those locations. We can come to you and you can come to us in North Dakota, depending upon what your use case is.
Obviously, UND is another great partner here, and we'd actually looked at flying at Gorman Field, and that was our first choice just because of the proximity to Grand Forks.
Sure.
Unfortunately, for takeoff and recovery, currently it's a truck launch, and there's not a runway at Gorman Field. That was what drove us to be at Mayville.
Absolutely. That's a good point. And for us at the test site, I think that's kind of the evolution of this process is whether you are looking to fly beyond line of sight, or if you have special requirements like a runway, or if it's a multi-rotor aircraft, we want to make sure we have those capabilities at different locations across the United States because everybody's different. We want to make sure we have the right capabilities for the right industry to be successful and put their operations, at that next step.
So I know our first week of flying at Mayville, it was roughly 70 degrees, less than 10-mile-an-hour winds. And I said, it's usually like this about 11 and a half months out of the year. And our second one, again, no winds. And I said, see, it's like this all the time in North Dakota.
Yeah, that definitely helps. I mean, it goes, so quick from 70 degrees to now we're at 0 and sub-zero wind chills and everything else. So glad that our team is working with you guys to be able to get an approval and hopefully fly early on the East Coast. So.
And obviously the other thing about the test site, they were, really flexible. We're in development, things change, parts aren't able to, don't arrive when they're supposed to. We had to reschedule flights. And so, test site being able to work with us to, accommodate changes, another, great experience. Obviously they knew the people at the Mayville airport. Our first operation, there was still egg spraying going on, everything that needed to be done to coordinate with the local people there, just, all around, great experience to, make it work for everyone.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the advantage of coming to North Dakota is that we're a large state with low population. And everybody says everybody knows everybody, maybe not to that level, but it is easy for us at the test site to coordinate with UND and Grand Sky. And I know the Mayville airport manager personally, good friend of mine growing up. So I would say that definitely helps. One thing you just said that triggered something in my brain was most of the approvals that we have worked with in the past. It's a one-off approval for a lockdown aircraft. These 44803s are great approval because it's for a Group 3 aircraft. It's aircraft agnostic, and you can make changes as you do the research and development on the aircraft. So I think that's one significant advantage. I'm sure from Ideal Aerosmith perspective, it's a huge advantage.
Yeah, that was, one of the differences, I think, the 803 versus other methods was, that it was really aircraft agnostic. We had to prove the safety case for what we were flying.
Yep.
But, it was within the reach that we weren't starting all over, when we, decided to switch the autopilot to, a different model.
Yep. No, that is great. I'm glad the test site's been able to help you guys out. Any other questions?
I got one, and thanks for the great information, sharing your perspectives in the successes on both sides. When you look at a Group 3 aircraft and leveraging the 44803, like Jim called out, it's allowing us to develop the aircraft, make changes, and make adjustments. When you look at next steps and the FAA perspective, what does that look like moving to commercial operation? Do the 44803 flights benefit in the opinion of the FAA and showing airworthiness, or how do Group 3 manufacturers, operators move to that next step of having their own airworthiness?
I think, that's That's a great question. I would say that is, huge challenge for the test site because we are the bridge to the FAA and we provide the data based on the flight. And with the flights being aircraft agnostic and the data that we collect, it is pushing rules and regulations forward with Part 108, beyond visual line of sight, repeatable, scalable operations. Also Part 146 coming out too. So I look at things being much more closer to a point of commercialization. Whereas when I first started at the test site, I was thinking a year or two, we'd be doing flights that allow commercial operation. But being able to conduct flights, civil flights, where it's not public aircraft operations and everything tied to the government. And like Jim had said too, getting to a place where we are trying to get them their own civil COA. I think things have advanced rather quickly over the last probably 18 months to 2 years. So I see a lot of good things coming down the pipe with the FAA, and I think this is a huge step in the process.
Does these flight hours count for something for the FAA for that step, or?
At this point, I would say no. They're still defining the process when it comes to aircraft airworthiness, like you had mentioned, the durability and trying to map that process to the manned aircraft process, I would say is still challenging. But I think this is a significant piece in the puzzle to move that process forward as well.
Right. So documenting your changes in the design.
Correct.
Showing that you're paying attention to those small details and bringing that forward as you get to a final design that goes towards that.
Yep. Very well said.
Thanks. There's a question in the chat for Jim. Is Ideal developing any other UAS besides the Prairie Hawk at this moment?
So we don't have anything else flying. Got lots of different ideas. Of course, we're an idea company, but it's the only one that's currently flying.
I think with that, I really appreciate you coming on, Jim. I'm glad the test site is able to help you guys get to a place where you can continue to advance your operations. Companies really like Ideal Aerosmith that can demonstrate how a 44803 approval can be effective and help mature your operations. So definitely appreciate that. If any other organization is interested in reaching out to the test site, we can help you, whether you want to fly in North Dakota, you want to fly in your own backyard. If you have a large aircraft, we can get you up in the air and it's aircraft agnostic. We're happy to help. Please reach out.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jim.